Before we get into this episode, I want to say that we are going to be talking about the Florida versus Richard Ferguson case. We are going to be having an attorney for Richard's son join us to talk about the son's perspective. And I just want to say before we get into it, this is in no way intended to be insensitive or dismissive to the victims that are involved in this case or their family members. We are very sympathetic. We are heartbroken by this tragedy and want you to know that our intention is just to have the conversation, also to get insight from the son because we had so many questions about it. But just know that going in, we are not being insensitive to that family. Our heart truly goes out to them. All right, now we get into it.
Now, if you're not ready, then go ahead and tell me you're not ready.
I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer, but
The Debrief.
hello and welcome to another episode of I'm Not a Lawyer, But.
The Debrief.
I am Melanie, aka I'm Not a Lawyer, But, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Goosebay, how y'all doing?
Oh, I feel like she always reminds me to
does.
turn the sign on. I appreciate you. Let's turn the sign on. Listen, you come through. I appreciate it. Sign is on.
That's every
Um,
time.
We are going to get into the debrief. I'm not a lawyer. We are not lawyers or legal experts, but we have this podcast in which we talk about legal things and get your thoughts and opinions on them. So we have a guest that is going to join us, and he is an attorney for one of the cases that I recently covered. But before he comes, and let me not even hide the ball. I recently covered a case out of Florida for Richard Ferguson, and the attorney for the son of Richard Ferguson, his name is Ri'Shard. He is going to be joining us to talk about the son's case. And so I am looking forward to that conversation. But before he does, and before I kind of give you even a recap on that case, there are some other things I wanted to get into kind of before we got there. First is if you're in the Patreon, I told people in the Patreon, I think last week, to watch a documentary called Alabama Solution. If you haven't watched that and feel like being pissed off, I think that's what I told the Patreon. If you feel like being pissed off, you should watch it. It is insane. It's a documentary, like I said, that spans like a long period of time, in which or that covers Alabama prisons and the insane things that are occurring in Alabama prisons. It is not only occurring in Alabama prisons, it is occurring in many prisons throughout this country. But what was so fascinating is that these inmates had cell phones. And so they were it wasn't just from the lens of like a cameraman who is documenting what they're seeing. It was from the lens of inmates inside the prisons who had illegal phones, phones they're not supposed to have, but were able to record from a firsthand view what is going on inside of these prisons. And it was really, really sad, really eye-opening. I mean, almost immediately into the documentary, an inmate dies and they show an image of him that when I was watching, I kept thinking, are they going to show us the picture? Because they kept talking about, there's this picture. And his mom is like, I had never seen my son like this. It's this picture. And I'm like, it must be really bad. Aren't going to show us the picture.
Mhm.
And then they show us the picture. And I was like, oh my God.
Mm.
Like, it is very graphic, very sad. Yeah. So if you feel like being pissed off,
You can also YouTube it, and it shows you certain clips on YouTube to help prepare you
for
the
the
documentary.
insaneness. It is on HBO. It's a documentary on HBO. So I did want to mention that. Next, I wanted to talk about Dirk because I went to his hearing. Again, that is a federal trial, so there are no cameras. So only people who are there can report on what happened. I've been going, I think out of all of the hearings he's had, I think I've maybe missed one.
Mhm.
And where we are for that hearing or for that case is Dirk's co-defendant, three of his co-defendants a while ago filed a motion. One in particular filed the motion, and then the other co-defendants joined in to that motion, and that is a motion to sever. I think I talked about this before.
Yep.
They want to split apart. They want their own trial separate from Dirk.
Yep.
And so what the judge had said previously was he was not going to make a ruling on the severance until after he made a ruling on the 404 and the 404B and the 403 evidence. And so in particular, the prosecutors want to include a murder that happened in Chicago that they say is tied to Dirk. And so the co-defendants are like, that has nothing to do with us. That has to do with Dirk.
Mhm.
Why do that needs to go used against us? The prosecutors also want to use an alleged attempted murder, an attempt on Quando Rondo's life from 2021. They want to include that. And again, the co-defendants are like, y'all are saying Dirk tried to have people kill him before. That has nothing, we didn't try to do that. So why, that has nothing to do with us. And y'all aren't saying it has anything to do with us. So we should be separate. So that is why they filed the motion a while ago. The way it's being reported, people are like, "Oh my gosh, that motion was filed a while ago." This judge takes forever to make decisions, and so we've been waiting on that decision. And so this last hearing, literally, the whole point was for him to hear them actually argue everything they've already put in paper, like on black and white.
Okay.
So it was 45 minutes, a waste of my Uber, because everything that they said are things that are in the documents already. And then at the end, the judge was like, I'll take it under submission. I was like, bruh.
Having the trial split, though, severed, as they say, are they facing lesser charges, though?
No, but what happens, so just like I said, so
I remember last time you were saying that they might get, the judge might be more lenient.
no, not lenient, but so conspiracy charges are usually, anytime there's a conspiracy case, that's usually tried together, all of the defendants. Because if we conspire, if we agree with each other to rob somebody, it's best to put that entire case in front of the jurors so that jurors get a full picture. But if we are tried separately and maybe you bought the mask for the robbery and I bought the gun, my attorneys may argue, you don't get to show the jurors that he bought the mask in my trial. I didn't buy the mask. So what happens is when you split conspiracy cases specifically, when you split those, what gets brought in, the attorneys have more argument to say certain things shouldn't be brought in because that has nothing to do with my client. So in this case, they are trying to show that Dirk, it's a murder for hire. It has to do with Vaughn's death. And so he's been trying to go after this guy. So that's why they want to put in the attempt on Quando in 2021. But the other defendants are like, we didn't do that. Okay. But they need that story. Prosecutors need to show that to show the full scope of what is going on. But when you split it, you can't, it starts to get choppy. Okay. So anyway, that's why they're trying to argue it. Dirk, of course, he's not raising the motion because they're trying to separate from him. So it's not his motion. It is the co-defendant's motion. So what the judge said that I found very interesting is he said, well, now that I've taken out the Chicago murder that was most prejudicial, why do you still feel like it should be severed? And so I was like, oh, it's not going to be severed.
I agree. I don't even see why they are even pushing for this. I hear what you're saying, but I mean,
well, and even, you know what a good example?
The crime.
Allegedly. You know what a good example is?
Yes, allegedly.
Is Alicia Andrews.
Okay.
Okay. Remember Alicia Andrews?
Yeah.
It was a conspiracy charge. And the whole point is that she, as well as these other men, conspired, agreed to kill Julio Fulio.
Yeah.
But remember, she was tried separately. They're all facing the death penalty. She's not. But what you're going to see when we get to their trial is probably a hell of a whole lot more evidence that we didn't see in Alicia's. And that's because Alicia's team gets to say, and we saw some stuff, right? But many of the things Alicia was there for. We didn't see any additional text messages. We didn't see, there's going to be so much more in their trial that we haven't even seen yet.
So in their trial, it's probably, if there's their evidence, they're able to bring that evidence in, like, no, she knew about this because this is what.
Well, anything having to do with her, they would have put in hers, but like to further prove the incident happened, like if there's any communications between the men that we didn't see, that would be brought in theirs, but her team would be arguing like that ain't got nothing to do with her.
Okay. I see.
So, I mean, it's a little convoluted, but that is why they argue, even for YSL. I don't know if y'all remember, but Bruce Harvey, that man argued to be severed a million times. A million times. He was like, your aunt, and then especially when the new judge came in, when Glanville was out and Whitaker came in, Bruce Harvey, the first thing that man said, we want a severance, Your Honor. We ain't got nothing to do with this. Because think about even YSL, how many, there were weeks spent on crimes that Woody did. Yeah. And some of the other people who had taken pleas had nothing to do with the people actually on trial. Yeah. And so when you argue for, of course, prosecutors for YSL, they're trying to show the full scope of YSL as a gang. But all the other defendants in the actual trial, like, that has nothing to do with us. Why are y'all talking about the time this man got arrested? He already pled to that. That's get off us. So anyway, hopefully you were able to follow that. But so that's what happened. Right now, we are the big thing that is going to happen next in Dirk's trial is the motion for severance, if it is granted or denied. That's what we're waiting on. The judge said he ain't gonna take a long time, but he said it's coming. So that's what we're waiting on. When it comes, that will also tell us the trial date, because
just about that.
Right now, it was scheduled for April. But two of the co-defendants, their attorneys they have other trials. And so because they have other trials, they can't be in two places at once. They had to pick a new date. And so the next time everyone is free is not until August 25th. And so if Dirk is severed, at the last hearing, they said his date would stay in April. Everybody else's would move to this August date. If Dirk is not severed and everybody stays together, then everybody's trial would happen in August.
August or April?
August.
August. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Dirk, his trial as an individual will either happen in April, or if it's not severed, then everybody's will happen in August. So that's what the ruling is going to tell us. It's also going to tell you if it's not severed, it's going to be one trial, and everything that they want in to paint that story is going to be in that trial. So, yeah, we will see. We will see what happens. It's hard. Most judges, when one side is up, they'll give points against that person. And then when the next side is up, they give points against that person. So you're never ever really able to see where the judge is siding or like which way he's leaning, because he asks questions for both sides. So you're like, oh, you don't agree. Oh, wait, you don't agree with him either. So like, how do you feel? So that's what we'll see. We're waiting on. Now we can get to the Richard Ferguson case. This case is out of Florida. If you haven't watched the recent recap I made, I'll just briefly tell you that what happens in this case is that a 15-year-old boy, his name is Ri'Shard, at the time he was 15, he leaves his house with his friends. He has 3 friends. He leaves his house with his 3 friends. They're supposed to be going to get a belt from one of the friends' houses. They leave the house. He's driving. He's underage. He doesn't have a license. He leaves and he goes to get the belt. He then stops by someone else's house. He then goes to a park. And as he's leaving the park, instead of going back home, he speeds through this stop sign. The speed limit was 30 miles per hour. He was doing between 76 and 83 miles per hour, runs through this stop sign at this high rate, ends up hitting another vehicle. The vehicle has a grandmother, grandfather, and their 3 grandchildren in it. As a result of this high impact crash, the grandmother and the 3 grandchildren die, and the grandfather is somehow able to live. And so the son is charged, and the father, his father, Richard, is also charged. And at the time, Richard was 67. I think it was 2 years ago.
But the
Richard,
young man had 3 of his friends,
he
2 of
had
his friends,
3 of his friends were in the
and
vehicle
they
with
all
him,
lived.
and they all lived. They were injured. They went to the hospital, but they all lived. And Ri'Shard gets charged, and Richard also gets charged. And the reason Richard, their names are so similar, the reason Daddy gets charged is because prosecutors said that he gave his keys, he gave permission to his son to drive his car. Um, and Because of that permission, they ended up charging Richard as well. And so, with something called involuntary manslaughter by culpable negligence, is the charge. And so, that is the basis of what happened. I just kind of recapped the case. The father was sentenced to 37 years. He was convicted by a jury. He was sentenced to 37 years in prison. And so that is the case that recently I covered. And I got a lot of comments a lot of comments and questions about the son.
I was just about to ask.
There were a lot of questions about what happened to the son. What did he say happened? Was he charged? All of that. And the attorney for the son, his name is Andrew Darling, we were able to connect, and he agreed to come on the podcast to give us more kind of insight into this case, into Ri'Shard, the son. And so I am so excited, so thankful that he agreed to come on the pod to chat with us. So that is who the guest of the day is. Okay, so as I said, we have the attorney for Ri'Shard joining us to give us more insight into the case. We're always excited and thankful anytime we have real attorneys, since we're not ones, join us. And so we are welcoming up Andrew Darling. Here we go. Hello again. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you all doing?
Amazing.
Good. Nice
Wow.
to meet you, Andrew.
Since this is your first time on our platform, we'd love for you to first just introduce yourself, what kind of law you practice and where you practice, and then we can kind of get into the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Attorney Andrew Darling. I grew up in Orlando, Florida. That's where I primarily practice. I'm licensed in Florida, Georgia, Maryland, and DC. Darling Law is my law firm. We have 4 attorneys plus me, and another 6 or 7 staff, something like that. But yeah, we've mostly criminal defense, almost exclusively criminal defense. We opened back in 2019, so we've been doing this pretty consistently for the last 6+ years.
What a great last name. Darling is like perfect.
I was just about to ask, is it pronounced like my darling?
It is. And funny enough, I had a receiver. I played quarterback in high school at football, and I had a receiver whose last name was Love. And they used to call us the affection connection, Darling to Love. So what I tried to get him to do is I tried to get him to go to law school. I said, then we could be Darling and Love divorce attorney. But he didn't want to go to law school. So
that would have worked.
That's hilarious. Okay, so as I was kind of doing the intro, I said, and I kind of gave a recap on the case, on the Ferguson case. And I said that you were the attorney for the son, Ri'Shard Ferguson.
Yes.
And so I think to just kind of start off, because again, there were a ton of questions about the son's case. And so to start off, can you tell us what were Ri'Shard's charges initially? I understand he took a plea. And so what his initial charges were, and then if those changed at all for the plea, like how that worked.
Yeah, so he was charged with 10 counts. Okay. So counts 1 through 4 were vehicular homicide. So in Florida, vehicular homicide and manslaughter are essentially the same thing as long as it's done with a vehicle.
Got it.
The 4 counts of those, that is obviously for the 3 children and for the grandmother that lost their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are 5 charges. So counts 5 through 9 are for driving without a valid license, causing serious bodily injury or death.
Oh,
Again, this is for all 4 of the individuals who passed away, as well as the grandfather who did not pass away.
okay.
And then count 10 is reckless driving causing serious bodily injury. That is for the grandfather who did not pass away.
Got it.
So we have the 4 counts for the 4 individuals that lost their lives,
Mhm.
5 counts, 1 for every person in the car, and then we have the 10th count, which is for the grandfather who survived, and that's the reckless driving causing serious bodily injury.
Wow. I didn't realize that there was a
That's
charge specific
yeah.
for driving without a license and injuring someone while doing so or causing their death while doing so. That's interesting.
Yes. So that is a separate charge, and it's basically created because there are times where you get in an accident where somebody's not being reckless.
Mhm.
It's just driving without a valid license and
Got
causing
it.
death.
Okay.
So, Florida, we do things a little bit differently down here.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of underlying points in the system that are, let me just say, do not apply to everybody equally.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Mm. One question: if you didn't renew your license in time and you got in a wreck and your license isn't valid, this charge also applies to you, even though you've had your license for 20 plus years.
Yes. So the only place where that's normally different is in an instance where you get pulled over just normally and
Mhm.
you don't have a license, you've never had a license. In Florida, that's a charge called no valid license. It means you've never had a valid license.
Got
Okay.
it.
Whereas if you have had a license previously and it's suspended, revoked, or for some other reason no longer valid or expired, that is what's called a dualis or driving while license suspended.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. And so then we understand he took a plea. So did he plead guilty to all of those charges or were those changed with the plea?
So from the very beginning, Ri'Shard was, incredibly remorseful. This is a 15-year-old kid. He was barely 15 when this happened back in September of 2023. His birthday's in July. So he is, a couple months past his 15th birthday. We made the decision pretty
For like
early
2
on.
months?
Yeah.
Wow.
He, he, I mean, I have a 15-year-old right now. And it tears me up even thinking about it.
Yeah.
But we were very clear with the prosecutors early on. This has to stay in juvenile court. Now, again, that's their discretion, right? They could have what's called direct filed, and they could have moved him up to adult court, and he could have been facing a lot of the same, even more severe punishments than his father.
Mm-hmm.
The difference in the two systems is the adult system is for punishment. The juvenile system is for rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
There was no indication at the time that my client was any kind of intoxicated. He was just 15 and made an incredibly stupid decision. And then to top that decision off, he decided to speed as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we agreed that he would plead to all of the charges
Oh, okay.
in exchange for keeping the case in juvenile court,
Oh, got it.
as well as we were not going to do depositions, which is basically getting all the witnesses in a room, asking sworn statements. We were not going to put the family of the victims, we were not going to put them through an entire trial.
Mm-hmm.
We were not going to force them to essentially go up and testify on the stand about anything.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted them to get their closure. We wanted them to understand his remorse in a way that I know they did not understand prior to the plea.
Mm-hmm.
And we also wanted, obviously, my job is to represent my client, right? Like my job is to zealously advocate for young Mr. Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
And we were very clear, if we can keep this in juvenile court, he will do whatever the state wants in order to keep it in juvenile court and give him a life that when he gets out, he still has a life to go and an opportunity to go be productive.
Got it. And so as a result of that conversation and those kind of negotiations, his case stayed in juvenile court. And what was his sentence as a result of pleading to all of that?
So his case happened to be in front of the same judge who
Oh,
his father's case was in front of.
okay.
That's a judge that I've been in front of numerous times. I don't have a bad word to say at all about the judge,
Okay.
right? So one of the things about lawyering, and I think sometimes people they want lawyers to like throw judges under the bus, and the reality is, if we say something that's out of pocket that we could not support, we could get in trouble for that. We
Mhm.
can have complaints, levied against us. But the judge in my case and in Mr. Ferguson's case, in every interaction that I have ever had with him, has been incredibly fair, has been reasonable, has wanted to get to the right outcome, whatever that was in the case that I had before them.
Mhm.
So part of the plea was basically he pled to all 10 of the counts. He was adjudicated delinquent. So in Florida, in the juvenile system, it's just named a little bit different. Like a warrant is a pickup order.
Mhm.
Instead of being adjudicated guilty, you're adjudicated delinquent.
Okay.
So just the verbiage is a little bit different,
Yeah.
but he was adjudicated, and he is committed. I'm reading right now from the disposition because I wanted to make sure obviously I want to make sure I'm giving you guys everything right,
Yeah.
and just so everybody who's watching understands. I spoke to my client on Sunday. He's in a facility about 2 hours from Central Florida, a youth facility. He's been in since last year. I went and spoke to him, and I have his permission to talk about all this stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's why I'm allowed to do it. But he is in a Department of Juvenile Justice facility, a maximum risk facility. He is to be kept there until his 19th birthday or until he completes the program, which could be before that. And he's going to be on conditional release with supervision until his 21st birthday.
Got it.
So what that means is if he screws up in those 2 years, they can bring him back into custody until he's 21.
Okay.
Okay.
He's to have no contact with any of the victims' families or the co-defendants,
Okay.
which is basically his father. And we're going to be filing a motion essentially because I don't actually believe his father's a co-defendant. The technical reason for that is they weren't charged together,
Okay.
right? Like they're in separate places.
Mhm.
He has to do, when he does get out, he's going to have to do an 8-hour aggressive driving course. He already wrote an apology to the family. He does have 100 community service hours he's got to do. There is a lot about the case. His driver's license is suspended for 3 years as of starting last year.
I was just gonna
Um,
ask. But he
he's not
would be able to drive after he, like, completes this, he would be able to have a license again?
there. Yes, he should not be revoked forever. Now he's going to have to basically take a bunch of classes, and he's probably going to have some private, like driver education
Mhm.
type work where they can show that yes, he's proficient, yes, he's doing all these different things. He's also not allowed to have passengers under the age of 18 in his car
Wow.
until he's over 21.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's fines and fees. I
Mhm.
mean, there's there are so many little things that come with being in a program.
Mhm.
Like you essentially have to keep going to school while you're in the program. You have to keep doing all the little things. But I mean, honestly, like this is one of my young clients that I don't worry about him when he gets out of this process going and being able to be successful.
Mhm.
And I do want to say, I saw one of your comments. Blue Quartz likes my voice. So I appreciate that.
I want to say thank you on the behalf of that young man for advocating for him, because the other side of the coin, if he was charged as an adult, he would have, what type of sentence would he receive?
So he would have scored probably somewhere north of 60 years, which
Sheesh.
is a potential sentence that he could be given life. There's a certain number of months, and I don't remember what the exact cutoff is, but like once you hit that number of months, the court can say, yeah, you're going to get life.
Got it.
So there, like I said, there's a lot. This is tough.
Yeah. Yeah. let me say this because I want to get to the big question a lot of people had and have, and I definitely want to get into that. But before we do, I just want to make clear because even in our conversation that you and I had, and you've already expressed the son is very remorseful. He's written an apology. And so this conversation is not meant to be insensitive to the victims and their family members whose lives were taken. That is not the point of this conversation. Let me say that now. One of the questions that I raised in the video, especially considering, I've covered cases, the Michigan case, there's a case in Georgia right now where parents are being held responsible for actions of their children. And the question I was raising is, does that make sense? Is there some culpability, with these situations? And so that was the question. And that is what I wanted to, a part of the reason I wanted to have this conversation. And so again, I just wanted to be very clear about that. That is not the intention. The client, he has clearly stated, has expressed his remorse. They had a hearing, I believe, and he expressed remorse there as well, has written in a letter. So just to be clear about that. That said, the big question is in Ri'Shard, dad's case, what the prosecution said is that he gave his son, Ri'Shard, permission to take the vehicle. And so, Mr. Darling, we ask you from Ri'Shard's perspective, what is his version of events for that day? According to him, did his dad give him permission to take that car?
No, he didn't. He went and took the keys. And that's why, even in your video, if you watch the testimony of the boys, none of them saw Ri'Shard give Ri'Shard the keys because he didn't. Just like his dad said, he went and took him off the key rack. And when he was outside, his dad had given him permission to move the car from the driveway to the street.
Okay.
Because like his dad testified to, he intended to go with them.
Okay.
They were having a party at the house that day. I don't remember what it was for, but they were having a party at the house that day. Ri'Shard Ferguson walked back into the house. When he came back out, they were gone. So, and I don't remember if it was he came back out and they were gone, or like while he was about to go back in the house to get something, they left. I don't remember exactly what Ri'Shard's version was because I didn't talk to Ri'Shard in that sort of attorney-client relationship, right? I talked to Ri'Shard. They left. According to Ri'Shard's mother, who was not called at Ri'Shard's trial,
but was at the house that day, right?
But was at the house that day. Okay. She called Ri'Shard after he left a couple times before they got the phone call about the accident, and he didn't answer the phone. So it's for me, right? And I see the comment here because this is one of the things that they testified to, the boys, about the comment about buckle up and be safe, come right back, right? Those are comments that were not in the boys' original statements. Those were not comments that were made to me when I initially called the boys when I was first brought on this case.
Oh, wow.
So I'm still doing some more investigation for the family because obviously my focus at the time was keeping Ri'Shard's case in the juvenile system, keeping Ri'Shard in a place where he has a future once his sentence is up.
Yeah.
But the amount of stuff that was not done in Ri'Shard's trial was not presented is the family is incredibly concerned. And I will say this in full transparency. Ri'Shard's attorney worked with me previously and is somebody that I consider a friend.
Okay.
The performance in Ri'Shard's case specifically, I don't think is the level that he would say is good enough.
Oh, wow.
And I think some of the decisions that were made are decisions that are very likely to cause this case to come back on appeal.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because it's one thing for the lawyer to say, I'm making X, Y, and Z strategic decision, right? I'm making a decision not to do depositions. I'm making a decision not to call anybody other than Ri'Shard to the stand. I will say this. Ri'Shard wanted to testify in his dad's case.
Wanted
to testify in his dad's case.
Okay.
I wanted him to testify in his dad's case. The state attorney's office was anticipating him testifying in his dad's case. And he was never called. He was never brought from his facility. There were no actions taken by the defense to bring him. And, to me, allowing your kid to move a car from your driveway to the street is one level of permission. Let's say hypothetically, and again, this is not what I believe happened, but if you take the other kids at their word, okay, what they said at trial, not what they said before that, but what they said at trial, and they say they had permission to go, 3 minutes away to one of the other houses, and then they went to one of the other houses for the other kid. That level of permission, even if Ri'Shard gave it to them, that's not permission to go down to the park and hang out and then speed and going, 70 miles an hour. The permission is very different. And I know one of the questions everybody kind of has is about culpable negligence. Like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
Right. So and I'm going to read part of it. So it basically says it is more than a failure to use ordinary care, constituting a criminal act when a person engages in conduct they knew or should have known was likely to cause injury. And it says here, penalties range from a second-degree misdemeanor all the way up to second-degree felonies, first-degree felonies. So there are so many issues with what is culpable negligence. Is letting a 15-year-old drive a car, is that something that you knew or should have known was likely to cause injury? I would argue with you a 15-year-old driving a car is not likely to cause injury by itself.
Okay.
Absent some other factor. I mean, I hope the statute of limitations is gone, but I definitely took my car at 15 years old. And
yes,
it's one of those things like, go to the neighbor's house, go down the road. How do 15-year-olds actually learn how to drive?
Yep.
By driving,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Most of the time, yes, you're supposed to have somebody in the car with you. Nobody's arguing that my client taking the car was okay. It's not. And again, this is where we differ in, are we punishing conduct or are we punishing the results of conduct? So what I mean by that is, let's say in a different scenario, you have a DUI, right? Somebody fell asleep at a stop sign, cops pull up, cars running, whatever, they're intoxicated, okay? Now we're punishing DUI. Let's say somebody was at a stop sign, stopped like they were supposed to, continued to go, and then somebody else who wasn't drunk blew the stop sign and hit them and died. Now the drunk person's going to get charged, potentially with a DUI manslaughter, even if they weren't the cause of the crash. So it's like, are we charging
the one who, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we charging the conduct or are we charging the results of the conduct?
I understand what you're saying.
So, and again, they have all these different charges for different reasons. No, you shouldn't let your kid drive, whether they have a permit or not, because even with a permit, you're not supposed to be by yourself.
By yourself, yeah.
But it's also this, everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean the community, everybody's upset because of the outcome, which is like, I cannot think of a more tragic outcome for Miss Hernandez.
Yeah.
Genuinely. I think that lady is a saint. I mean that. This is also not really publicly available, but she forgave my client at his plea. And I will say this, I think the world of that woman. I genuinely do, because for you to go through that, like there is nothing that I can think that is more tragic than that. Is to lose 3 children and lose your mother in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
And for her to have it in her to forgive my client, I mean, that's the most emotional thing I have done as a defense attorney.
Yeah.
And like, I've won a murder trial,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like for me to say that's some, you know, the most emotional thing I've done, it's not close.
Yeah.
Like it was, and if I'm being transparent, which I'm trying to be here, when the not guilty verdict came back in my murder trial, I mean, I wasn't boohoo crying, but it was some water falling from my face.
Yeah.
So it's I cannot imagine what it is for Ms. Hernandez.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, my client took ownership of everything, and for that to happen to Richard Ferguson, I mean, I get it, right? Like this is all bad from every perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But also, what justice is there in an almost 70-year-old man with stage 4 prostate cancer? Essentially, he's going to end up being kind of tortured from the inside out.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to have the right medicine for him.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, the doctors who is prescribing the medicine now is going to need him to come into the office to continue to refill his prescription.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point is he not going to be able to do that? And he's not going to be able to get his medicine?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah,
there's no good outcome here, right? Like that's the thing that I don't know if anybody's saying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the good outcome here? And in speaking with the family as well, I have not spoken to Richard Ferguson yet. I intend to.
Mm-hmm.
But the family was never aware of the 5-year offer that the state put on the record. So
what?
The last offer they were aware of was what the prosecutor mentioned was the 10-year open plea to the bench that, or the basically it was capped at 10 years.
Yeah.
So what that means is the state attorney's office is not agreeing to an amount. The defense is not agreeing to an amount,
Mm-hmm.
but they will agree to open plea to the bench, argue for a downward departure, and the cap will be 10 years.
Yeah, no more than 10, and the judge will decide what the timing actually is.
Yes, and I will also say this: the judge made a big deal at sentencing about competent and substantial evidence to justify a downward departure. He mentions that he does not think the defense showed that to justify the downward departure. This, especially with the time between when the verdict came out at the end of last year to the sentencing,
it
is inexcusable to not have a doctor or the business records certified of Mr. Ferguson's medical records.
Yeah.
Because that is competent and substantial evidence. Just having the family talk about it is not.
Yeah. For context, let me give a little context. I don't think I had that in my video, but they were asking for a downward departure based essentially on his medical condition, the fact that he is sick. Downward departure meaning this is the guideline, but you should go less than that, judge, because he is sick, right?
Yes.
But in order to show that, you usually will have some business records. You have some evidence that you would submit to the judge to verify what you're saying. When they try to get in some records, the state objected and said that basically they needed, we've talked about business records before and how they get it admitted and how there has to be usually like a custodian of records, somebody who is able to verify that these are real records. And so they objected because the person who was getting those in was not the proper person. And so because of that, the judge did not accept those records. And so the downward departure essentially was declined in that area because he didn't have the proper records to depart I don't know if hopefully that made sense. If
It
but
makes sense, but
okay.
how wouldn't they have the proper
Well, that's
paperwork?
essentially what Mr. Darling here is saying. If the verdict came out in October and here we are in February, why wouldn't you have the proper person come and testify or say, hey, these are his medical why wouldn't you have the
Yeah.
proper person? That wasn't done. And so that the departure it was denied.
Yeah, and I want to look through here because there's a couple things that are on every score sheet. So the score sheet in Florida is essentially the snapshot of your criminal history. That is the thing that got him to the 444 months. Got Mr. Ferguson to that number of months. And the way that you read it is count 1 was manslaughter. It's a level 7 offense. It's a second-degree felony, a level 7 offense, which carries 56 points. Then the other charges, you basically cut the point values in half. So counts 2, 3, and 4 all count as 28 points.
Got it. Half of the.
So that's only 84 points. Okay, 84 points, you can equivalent points 2 months. The problem is when there is a death, every death adds 120 points to the score sheet.
Wow. Okay.
So that added 480 points.
Got it.
And then Mr. Ferguson had a misdemeanor 2020 case, a second-degree misdemeanor, the least serious misdemeanor we have here, where he picked up a driving with a suspended license himself way back in 2020.
Okay.
So, and that's like 0.2 points.
Okay.
So it's a fraction of a point.
Got
so
it.
His total points were 620.2.
Wow.
The state of Florida does a weird calculation where they subtract 28 points and then you multiply it by 0.75. Which gets you the 444.15. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why they did it this way, but that's the way that it is. On the last page, and again, all this stuff is available on the Osceola County Clerk of Court's website. If you want to go there and look at this stuff yourself because you're a nerd like the rest of us, cool. Like, go do that. But I cannot imagine the amount of times that your husband is like, listen, I hear you, but again, you got another one? But at the end of the score sheet, there's a standard page that's in every score sheet. It says reasons for departure, mitigating circumstances. So the first one is a legitimate uncoerced plea bargain. And that isn't the case here, right? Because he went to trial. So the next one, though, is the defendant was an accomplice to the offense and was a relatively minor participant in the criminal conduct. That's a basis for the downward departure. There's another one about the defendant's ability to appreciate the nature of it. I don't think that's really applies. This is what his attorney was arguing. The defendant requires specialized treatment for a mental disorder that is unrelated to substance abuse or addiction, or for a physical disability, and the defendant is amenable to treatment. So as long as it's not related to a drug addiction, that serious of medical circumstances, such as stage 4 cancer, such as essentially what a condition that makes his bones brittle. I mean, that's a basis by itself.
Yeah.
The need for payment of restitution to the victim outweighs the need for a prison sentence. That's usually in different types of cases. If there was a massive amount of insurance available, which there isn't, maybe that would be something that was available. Doesn't really feel like it. There's a few more. There's the defendant cooperated with the state to resolve the current offense or any other offense. So Ri'Shard does not get credit for his son basically saying, hey, listen, let's get this resolved.
Oh, okay.
So he doesn't get that credit. Okay. Now the other one that I thought also could have applied was the offense was committed in an unsophisticated manner and was isolated incident for which the defendant has shown remorse. And this is where I think the videos and the sort of reaction to Mr. Ferguson he's been adamant the entire time. He never gave my client the key. He didn't give him the key because my client took it. So he also can't get up there on his sentencing under oath and say different things than he said at trial.
Got it. Yeah.
Because that impacts his appellate rights.
Mm.
So it's one of those things too, where it's incredibly difficult for me because I was at their house within a couple days of the accident. I met the family then.
Okay.
And I gave them what in 99% of cases is the correct advice. Don't say anything to anybody. Don't talk about it. There's nothing for us to do here. Don't reach out to the victims. Don't reach out to the family.
Mm-hmm.
Stay to yourself. When this comes, and it will, we'll address it then.
Okay.
In listening to the families at my client's plea hearing,
yeah,
I started to wonder if that was the wrong advice in this case. And I started to wonder if we'd reached out, if we'd sent flowers, if we'd sent apologies, if we'd done anything, if that would have gone over differently.
As opposed to silence. When you especially if the clients are really feeling remorseful, but just being silent for, trying to be smart legally, you're being silent, but internally you really want to say, I'm sorry. But
and they did. And that's why I feel bad about it. Because it was my advice to not say anything.
Right.
And we knew, given the circumstances, at some point it was going to come back. But it was a year and a half later before anybody was arrested.
Wow. And were they arrested and charged at the same time, father and son?
So yes and no. So it's kind of an interesting way. So because one was juvenile and one was adult.
Okay.
Because they got the adult version is the warrant, the kids version is the pickup order. They got them at the same time. So my client had left Central Florida to try to get back into school and kind of just try to get a fresh start, because obviously he was, incredibly traumatized, and he still is, by the fact that he's responsible. He drove a car and it killed 4 people. And so I knew where he was, but outside of that, I mean, the family knew where he was, but law enforcement didn't know. So law enforcement arrested Ri'Shard Ferguson, and I believe it was February of last year. And I mean, I can probably look right now if I'm being honest. But what ended up happening is it was February of 2025 when they were arrested. So the accident took place in September of 2023. So at that point, once they arrested Ri'Shard, we knew that there was very likely a pickup order for Ri'Shard.
Got it.
We decided, I had the family come and drop Ri'Shard off at my office. I bring him here. I will facilitate him turning himself in.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that you and I talked about, and I know you had mentioned not being able to find one, is nobody's found a picture
of Mr.
Ferguson on the internet. And there's a reason for that. Because I know, listen, I've tried myself and I'm pretty good at what I do. So we were very intentional about not allowing him to be photographed or be caught in the media. So a lot of times the Florida Highway Patrol and some of the state attorney's offices, they want to get you in that perp walk, right? They want to get that video with your head down and in shackles and all of that. Yeah. So I talked to FHP, which is the Florida Highway Patrol. I talked to the lead investigator, and I told them to give me 48 hours. So give me 48 hours to get him turned in, and I had him turned in about 12.
Oh. And
I did it with no fanfare, with no media, no nothing. I took him to the Juvenile Assessment Center here in Orlando, and got him turned in. They called the Orlando Police Department, which again had nothing to do with everything out of Osceola, had nothing to do with the Florida Highway Patrol. They came in, they verified that he had the pickup order, and they basically took him out the front of the building and brought him around to the back where they process him in. And he's been in custody since that day.
Wow. Wow. And just in case anybody else missed it, someone in the comment is asking, there is no picture of Ri'Shard, the son, available. I looked for purposes of my video. I was trying to just give visuals, and you cannot find a picture of the son. And so Mr. Darling is saying that was intentional, to not have his, there is no perp walk. There is none of that exists, as he is a juvenile. And, you know, once he gets out, yeah.
And we also, when we did the plea itself, because juvenile information is not public information.
Correct.
So the news media didn't know when the hearing was. And for whatever reason, the victim's family and the state attorney's office and Florida Highway Patrol, for whatever reason, they never told the media when the hearing was going to be. So, you know, we had the media at another hearing that we had, but the judge ordered them not to video record my client because he was still a juvenile.
Got it.
So, I mean, for me, handling these cases with kids,
yeah,
his name is going to forever show up in the Google machines for everything.
It's a very particular spelling as well.
Yeah, very particular. But, you know, for him, like I said, the big point for me is I want him to have a life when this is over. And I saw a comment earlier, and it passed, and somebody mentioned about me. Why wasn't I able to help Mr. Ferguson? And the answer is because that's a conflict. You know, I can't represent the same people. Do I think that's something that they could have waived? Potentially. But also, I never want to put my clients in a position, because if I was representing Ri'Shard at trial and we did call Ri'Shard, how am I supposed to, like, who do I give advice to? Right. So, you know, it was smarter for Ri'Shard, and, you know, ultimately it didn't work out for Ri'Shard the way that the family wanted it to. But I mean, I know the family's in the process of trying to get their attorney to file the appeal. You have 30 days generally from a sentence. I mean, I'm looking at the docket right now. It does not look like it's been done yet. I will reach out to Ri'Shard's lawyer and say, hey, like, get this stuff filed.
Yeah.
Because
with Richard's son saying that he didn't give him the keys, I mean, couldn't that just overturn everything?
So in Florida, one of the bases for appeal is newly discovered evidence. That doesn't qualify as newly discovered evidence because it was available at the time, and through sort of reasonable diligence. I don't know that there was a party in the lawsuit. And what I mean by that is the defense attorney or this prosecutor who didn't know that's what my client was going to say if he was called.
Got it.
The fact that he wasn't called is potentially a strategic decision that would follow under the lawyer's purview anyway. But I mean, it's tough. It's tough for me because
it's real confusing.
I've had trials with this attorney, multiple trials, and we've got good outcomes in the trials that we had. I've never thought professionally that he was a substandard attorney ever. Like, just in the experience I've had with him, the cases we've worked together, I've never had that experience. But when prosecutors, even prosecutors who weren't on the case, who were just there watching it because it was such a big case, when those prosecutors come to me later and they're like, man, he didn't do anything.
Wow.
And the family has other concerns that obviously I'm not gonna air, because, you know, that's their grievances with him. You know, there's a lot of grounds, I think, for an appeal, not just on the substance of what did and didn't happen at the trial, but also on the attorney's performance.
Got it. Got it. I'm curious if there was one of the witnesses was asked. I don't know if it was more than one, only from the what portion of the trial I was able to see. One of the witnesses was asked if Ri'Shard had previously taken the vehicle without permission from his father, and the witness said no. The internet I've seen has said otherwise, and I'm curious what you know about that, what you can say about. I mean, given that he had just turned 15 and even was able to back a car up, it says enough for me. And so I'm curious, what was his experience with driving? Is this something he had done before?
So not that I was ever made aware of. I asked Ri'Shard, and he said the only driving he's done was like literally right there from the driveway. He'd turn the car around. So they had multiple cars because they had they had multiple people living there.
Okay.
And they also had, like I said, they had a party going on. So they had a bunch of cars at the house that day.
Okay.
So it was one of those things where I was never able to find out whether he'd actually driven previously outside of just sort of the normal stuff that you would have, like from when you have somebody in the car with you or anything like that. But to the best that I've been able to find out, no.
Okay.
Like he wasn't somebody who was just taking the car and whatever.
Okay.
And I'll share this with you guys too. I don't too often get petty with people on Facebook. I try not to, right? I try to live my best life and I try not to
engage.
I try, but it's so hard sometimes.
I get it.
And a friend of mine basically shared the local news article about the case. And somebody commented, they made a comment, and then my friend went back and was like, I thought he let him move the car, but the boy did way more than allowed. Right? That was my friend's comment. Okay. And my friend didn't even know I was on the case at all.
Okay.
Then this person comes back and says, no, he let that little boy drive all the time, actually. And I'm like, all right, now you're talking trash and you don't know what you're talking about. So now I got to get on here.
Yes.
And I responded very clearly, no, he did not. Then she responds, yes, he did. Please ask me how I know. He allowed that boy to drive all the time. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. Okay. My response was, this is going to be good. How do you know? And she said, because I know one of the boys who was in the car with him when it happened. I'm like, okay. I said, you know how I know he wasn't allowed to drive and didn't drive regularly? Ask me how I know. Because if you want to be petty, I can go there. I try not to, genuinely, but I can go there. And I just said, I represented the driver, which is public knowledge. I have every one of the 3 kids' interviews. I have their sworn statements. They all had different stories until law enforcement spoke to them. Then they all got on the same page. And then I just go through and I talk about your comment about he let the little boy drive all the time. I said, it isn't just factually wrong. It isn't supported by any of the kids' statements under oath. I know it feels good to think you know something, but ask the kid you know to share his official statements. They're not going to match up. And then she responded like, oh, you were the lawyer. You're supposed to say he didn't allow his son to drive.
That's when you tap out. Because
no, there's a couple other petty lines that I'm not proud of. Kept going. But I basically just said, listen, I said, no, he didn't have permission. And then she came back and she kind of went back to the narrative. It wasn't just that occasion. It's been said by many, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of shut it down and I said, listen, I thought you had all this inside information. I said, now you're just repeating back the lie that he let him drive on more than one occasion. I was like, I figured that'd be your response. I said, the outcome is terrible, absolutely tragic for everybody involved. I said, did you know that the mother of the children forgave my client? Did you know that my client took ownership of everything? I said, you didn't have that insider information. I said, be careful what you wish for when holding parents responsible for their kids' actions, because parents are going to be on the hook for fights at school threats. I mean, they let the kids use the phones, don't they? Speeding tickets, theft from stores, where does it stop? And I just said, it's absolutely tragic. She lost her 3 kids and her mother in the same accident. But make no mistake, this was youth and inexperienced driving. It was incredibly reckless, but he owned up to that. His father should not have been responsible for his actions. And I left it there because there's nothing that anybody's going to be able to tell me short from some recorded statement that shows my client lying and his dad lying and them like plotting to let him drive off with the car.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's nothing you're going to be able to tell me that says his dad should be responsible for this. Now, if you're upset with the result and the results of the outcome for the son, I understand that. I get it. Because I did a good job does not mean his dad should spend 37 years in prison. And that's the part where I'm just not going to get on board with the general public in this. Nobody won here.
Yeah.
There's not a single person in this situation that won. Nobody's happy with the prosecutor that did this. Nobody's happy with the elected prosecutor. That's not what they wanted to happen either.
Yeah.
But nobody won. And that's the part that I think everybody wants to enjoy somebody else's suffering. And everybody wants to get on board with, oh, that's horrible. Yeah, I don't know anybody who doesn't think it was horrible. But it's who should be responsible. And that's the part where I'm disagreeing with just about everybody else.
What's really interesting about what you just said, almost every attorney I've talked to about these kinds of situations, not this case specifically, but even going back to the Michigan case, the Crumleys who were charged after their son, he was a school shooter, and they were charged for that. There's a case in Georgia right now. I think I was mentioning it. Colt Gray I always forget their name is like Colin and Colt, and I forget which one is the father and the son. But anyway, he is on trial because his son did a school shooting in Georgia. And anytime I talk to lawyers about that, they all say similar things to what you said, which is this is a dangerous, essentially, precedent being set because parents can begin to be charged for a lot of the things that their children do, and it's a slippery slope. And when your number is called, you're not gonna like the results. And so anyway, I just thought it was interesting because I've heard that many attorneys, while the general public I've encountered feel differently, attorneys are like, y'all don't want that. Be careful what you wish for.
And that to me is kind of the crux of this issue. Is what are we opening up now for parents? If we're saying, even if we let them drive, right? Let's take another scenario where dad does let the son drive, right? Which is not what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
What steps would the dad have to take once he realizes the person took the car before it's no longer culpable negligence? So like, does he have to call? Does he have to get in his car and go try to find them? Does he have to FaceTime? Does he have to notify on my location if he has an iPhone or whatever Google Android calls it? Like, what does he have to do to try to prevent it from happening before it's no longer culpable negligence? Like, what in this case, what could Ri'Shard have done? Because he says in his own testimony, he says he took the easy way out because he got distracted. He just, the next phone call he got was about the accident. So what is it that he could have done in that intervening time that would have changed the outcome? Like, there's nothing. Well, if he calls and if Ri'Shard never answers the phone, his mother called him. According to her, his mother called him and he didn't answer the phone. So, like, are you supposed to go out in the car? Like, are you supposed to call the police? Like, what is it that you're supposed to do? And that's the thing that makes this such a problem when it comes to other stuff. If you're sitting out in the car and you send your kid into Walmart and you tell them, hey, go buy these 5 things. They go buy those 5 things. You gave them $20, but it comes out to $22. The kid gets to the self-checkout, pockets one thing, rings up the other 4. Are you now on the hook for that? Because you gave them permission to go do something.
Yeah.
But then they did something else because they didn't have the good sense to put one of the items back.
I do hear, I hear what you're saying. And I agree to a certain extent. The young man was driving without a license.
Mm-hmm.
So that alone puts him in the wrong. That alone puts his dad in the wrong. So somebody should be responsible. I'm thinking 36 years, no. Because his dad didn't say, hey, take these keys, go drive and get in a wreck. he's not
Yeah.
wanting that to happen.
Sure.
You know, and like I said, it's unfortunate that it happened, but for it to be a 36-year sentence, 37 is ridiculous. I was also thinking about how our parents bought us bikes and let us ride crazy. I mean, we used to be on public streets without helmets, and we could have caused accidents.
So
And
if
that happened, would my parents have been responsible?
Do you guys have the just insane number of kids that ride around in e-bikes where you guys live?
Yes, they are flying around here.
Yeah.
So we do as well, and it annoys me to no end. Not them riding their e-bikes, but the number of grown people who rode their bicycle in the middle of the street their entire childhood who now complain about this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing. Is the stuff that you did when you were a kid, you didn't get caught for it. So nobody in your life was ever responsible for your actions. So now that something tragic does happen, now you're piling on. It's the same thing. It's the same way most people feel about defense attorneys. Oh, they help guilty people get off. They help guilty people, whatever. No. We protect the Constitution, right? It's not my burden to do anything. Like, I can literally sit at a trial, an entire trial, and not say anything, and the state could still not prove their burden. I can't say I've ever done that. I can't say I would ever do that. But it's one of those things, like, everybody wants to get on a page and throw rocks at somebody when you're not in a position to have rocks thrown at you. And until you need a defense attorney, then you're calling my office crying, talking about, Andrew, I don't know how this happened. Okay, we can help. But it's so easy. And particularly, let's talk a little bit. I hadn't brought this up, and I haven't seen anybody really talk about this. Osceola County, Florida, is a majority Hispanic county. The victims in this case are 3 beautiful Hispanic children and a beautiful Hispanic grandmother. Okay. Young Mr. Ri'Shard Ferguson is Black. Richard Ferguson, very clearly a Black man. Okay. Do I think if this was me at 15 years old, and if I would have had a dad in the house at 15 years old, if he was the one who didn't give me permission to go drive, but didn't call, do I think it would have been handled the same way? Or do I think it would have been handled the same way in Osceola County today if it was a white child with a white father? I don't. I really don't. I mean, I don't think it would have been handled that way, whether the victims were Hispanic or not.
I agree with you.
I just want to be clear. If you, as a 15-year-old, had done what Ri'Shard had done, you're saying you think it would have been handled the exact same way?
I think the child, me at the time, right? If I'm the 15-year-old, the range of things that would have happened, I still think what happened to Ri'Shard would have been the worst thing that would have happened to me.
Oh,
right?
Got it.
The maximum juvenile sentence.
Yeah.
The best thing that would have happened to me is some level of apologize, go home. You're going to be on community control. You're going to be on essentially heightened probation.
Right.
But I don't think anything would have ever happened to my father.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Agreed.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear. Yeah.
Man, this is, I agree. And I also do agree that people were he got caught. Like you said, we do this all the time. And I'm always advocating on people, man, use your common sense. But you always have to revert back to, well, what does the law say? And it's not fair. It just ain't fair.
Well, I mean, we have, what's his name? Ethan Crouch. I think his name is Ethan Crouch. He killed 4 people at the age of 16 while driving under the influence. And I think him and his mama just got caught. They were out the country. And they ended up having to come back. I think the mama I think she good now, but the mom had gotten arrested, but she was arrested for trying to have him flee, not for,
but
regarding
like an accessory after the fact kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, he
yeah.
was intoxicated.
And he was
you know?
intoxicated and killed 4 people.
So in preparation for
Mhm.
this,
Yeah.
right? I went back through and I listened to a few things because it's been a little less than a year since I really went through and listened to everything again.
Okay.
And when they first do my client's statement, and my client says, no, I need an attorney. Ri'Shard Ferguson is there next to him in the hospital when he does this.
Oh.
And the Florida Highway Patrolman says, recorded in that interview after my client, says, I don't want to speak without an attorney present, which is exactly what I told him to say.
Mhm.
But this was technically like a day or two before he hired us. But there's a part where the Florida Highway Patrol officer says, I've been standing near you. I've been within 2 feet of your face. I have not witnessed any signs of intoxication, whether by alcohol or drugs. I don't smell any of the impurities of alcohol. I don't smell any drugs on you. You're not talking with a slurred speech. You're not doing any of these things. I have no indications that you're under the influence of anything.
Hmm.
He wasn't. He was just 15 years old.
Yeah.
Just 15.
That's it. And again, and I know, like,
A bad decision.
I can get on my soapbox about this because I am there while my client is living it. But also, I'm not lessening, and I know you guys have done a good job of pointing this out. I'm not lessening the tragedy for the Hernandez family at all.
Yeah.
It is, I told you, I cannot think of a worse thing to happen to anybody.
Yep. This entire situation is just blah.
There's no winners.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously we are having a conversation about what has happened to Ri'Shard, but I think the point that you're making as well is I'm getting on a bit of a high horse, but I wish those are the statements that people his age hear, because in that instance, he's in the vehicle with his friends. He makes the dumb decision to speed and go through a stop sign. And this is the result. Not only do you affect the lives of these people who were just driving, just out minding their business, not only have you disrupted, killed their family, you have now affected your own father based off of your decisions. And that is the thing that, while I've heard people on both sides of this charging the parents, and I have my mixed feel. I go back and forth. That's my truth, is I go back and forth. But at the end of the day, the message really is to the kids. Y'all are not making decisions that only affect you. Unfortunately, children are children and their brains aren't developed enough to understand that fact. But that is the thing that you would hope that they get. Your choices, your decisions are not just affecting you. And yeah.
I wish I had some great closing remarks about anything, but it feels to me like we are in the middle of big picture here, right? We're in the middle of our democracy potentially collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing somebody does when they see somebody get sentenced to a long time in prison is go cheer. And the reason I've never been a prosecutor and the reason I will never be a prosecutor is because I have absolutely no desire to send anybody to prison. And here's the caveat. Even the people who I probably agree deserve to be in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I have no desire to send people to prison because I know what that does to somebody. I know what 48 hours in a jail does to somebody. Y'all, I know when I was younger, if you have 2 no-call, no-shows, yeah, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the amount of devastation that takes place on somebody's lives for something as simple as an arrest for driving without a license or petty theft, all the way to, like, I have a case now. Well, let's talk about my murder case that we won back at the end of 24. My client spent 652 days in jail.
Wow.
with no bond. And the standard in Florida to not get a bond at the time was there's proof evident presumption is great, which basically means no reasonable juror could find you not guilty. But I got 6 of them that found her not guilty.
Wow.
So yeah. There's and the entire thing was on video. So like there's the standards now, and in Florida, we elect our judges. I'm not going to say whether I think that's better or worse than appointing because I haven't been in a place where they only get appointed and they don't get elected. But it's a perverse incentive because the last thing a judge wants to do is be the person that set a bond and then somebody goes out and commits another crime.
Yeah.
But it's like for the 99 people out of 100 that aren't going to do that, when you have that one person that does, those other 99 people's lives are going to be destroyed because they're going to be sitting in jail.
Yep. Yep.
So it's
600 plus days to get found not guilty is wild.
Yeah. It's something that I'm trying to actually work with the Florida legislature to, because this is probably less than 100 people a year that in the whole state that are held without bond, actually go to trial, and then are found not guilty. I would imagine it's probably maybe 10 people a year.
Wow.
Statewide.
Okay.
Because the vast majority of people that get held pretrial, they get pressured into taking something that allows them to get out. So they're going to resolve a case whether they did it or not. And then the ones who are actually adamant and have the family with the support and the resources to hire somebody who can actually fight the case for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. And that's the thing. So many people are like, oh, well, trust the system, how? Yeah. I'll never be able to trust the system. Do you know what I see every day?
Yeah.
And somebody made a comment earlier. Looks like Celeste made a comment earlier about she would be cautious on calling the police on her brown son. Yeah, me too. My kids are biracial, like 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, and my 15-year-old is 6'2", 185. So
oh man,
we gonna have that discussion very soon in his life. But it's one of those things that like there's no right answer in a lot of these situations. And I think we need to start focusing on what answer causes the least damage to the community. Like what answer would actually, let's talk about Mr. Ferguson's case. What is an outcome in this case that is as just as it can be for everybody? Even if he's convicted, it feels like him being on house arrest. Maybe he can go to his doctor's appointments and that's it. It's like jail, except now the state doesn't have to pay for it. He's still confined. He's still going to have all the treatment that he needs to do. So he's not going to be tortured because he's going to be without treatment. I mean, he's not going to have the quality of life he had beforehand anyway. Like, I don't know that that's justice, but is it better than what we have now? Yeah, it is. So it's tough. I know the family is intending on doing the appeal. I can't do the appeal. I'm sure that's going to be a question at some point. Generally, we don't do appeals here. We just don't have the time to sit down and go through thousands of pages of records and then come up with good appellate arguments while we're trying to do our day-to-day cases. Yeah. But, I've recommended a couple folks to the family that I know are phenomenal appellate attorneys. And, hopefully we get it filed and hopefully some judge somewhere in the 6th District Court of Appeals, hopefully they hear it before Mr. Ferguson passes away.
Yeah.
Man, wow. This is tough.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah.
I'm just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I think we got it all the questions that I had, and then you were able to hit some of the Patreon ones. Yeah, I think that is it. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us that information, your insights, your perspective. I'm happy that you answered I usually like to ask attorneys, if defense attorneys specifically, if they were ever prosecutors first, just out of curiosity, because we've spoken to people who were prosecutors and became defense attorneys, and
Mhm.
people who are like, I've never.
Mhm.
So I'm
I
always interested in
I I
that.
had an opportunity. So I know the elected state attorney here locally, and I know because back in 2020, like I've never been a cop, okay, ever. Back in
Mhm.
2020, I ran to be the sheriff of Orange County
Oh.
because I actually think the place that you fix the criminal justice system is law enforcement.
Mhm.
And I know you guys, having the sort of experience with online and kind of growing and influencing and stuff,
Yeah,
you all sort of know if you have bad input, you get bad output,
every
right?
time.
That's just the part of the process.
Mhm.
So the inputs to the criminal justice system every single time come from law enforcement.
That's true.
So if you fix the inputs,
Yeah,
which is law enforcement, if you fix that, you fix the system.
yeah.
You don't need progressive prosecutors and empathetic judges and all that because it doesn't get there.
Mhm. Mm.
But when I was running, Madam State Attorney was running, and we're friendly. I mean, I think the world of her as a person. I do. I think she's been in an incredibly difficult situation because in 23 the governor removed her, and then she won re-election in 24.
Oh, wow.
So it's
Heard.
it's one of those things where our mini tyrant of a governor um is a very small man, and I don't care if he ever sees this. I hope he does actually. um I don't know. When you start your general campaign in 2018 to become the governor, and the first thing you say about the candidate that I worked for
Mhm.
is you tell all your people, let's not monkey this up. And oh,
Mhm.
by the way, the Democratic candidate happens to be the first Black Democratic candidate for governor, the first
Mhm.
Black man to be the Democratic nominee in the history of the state of Florida.
Yeah,
That's not an accident.
not at
So
all.
it's what they say when they show you who they are, believe them, right?
Believe 'em.
Yeah.
Yep. Every
So,
time. Yeah.
ugh. But again, thank you guys so much for giving me the
Thank
opportunity
you.
to come here and talk about Ri'Shard and his family and Richard and his family and just the
Yeah.
what they're going through. I mean, all of our sympathies, of course, to Miss Hernandez and her loved ones and everybody that lost a loved one that day.
For
But
sure.
this still isn't justice. This isn't the right outcome. And I don't know that there will ever be a right outcome, but I'm going to continue to fight to try to help the family get some kind of relief.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so, so much for joining. We appreciate you. We will put we had your I think you're on TikTok. We saw it. We had your TikTok
Yep.
information. I'm sure I'll be able to Google or look in your email to put your contact information. If anybody is looking for an attorney, in the states that you mentioned, we'll be sure to add that information there. So thank you. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't have as many videos with as many views, but I got one that's got like 300,000 on TikTok. So, that's my moment. That's my moment.
You're
So,
always welcome to come back for sure. We get another Florida case, I might have to hit you up.
listen, and let me tell you, the videos that take off on TikTok from my perspective are always the dumb ones where it's a role play where it's like me and then me with a filter as an officer, right? Like they're the dumbest things, but they're fun to make.
Indeed. All right. Have a good one.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Nice
You
meeting
guys as well. Take care. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Uh, okay.
this case, that case is just that's tough because I keep saying all of our parents,
I didn't
but
drive young.
from
I didn't drive until
my
my first
experience,
driving was at driver's ed.
yeah,
Yes.
my experience as parents from Georgia, y- you're not even thinking about it. Hey, yeah, go pick up some. You 14, 13, you drove with your parents from church. They were like, okay, you can drive home from church. And you driving home from church. And you do that often enough. And now your parents are comfortable with you driving. And unfortunately, this this young man got in that wreck. Um, I do feel the father holds some type of responsibility. 37 years, I don't think so. The 5-year plea deal would have sufficed for me. But it's just one of those things. He got caught.
Yeah, I am it's a tragic case. The attorney said that countless times, and let me just say it again. Because what I don't want, my fear, is that this episode or this conversation comes across as though we have no sympathy or are dismissing the family of these victims and their loss, their unimaginable loss. And that is not my intention. I don't believe that is the intention of Mr. Darling. He said many times, even that his client, Ri'Shard, the one who was driving, um, accepted responsibility and apologized. So I'm just very sensitive to making sure that that is very clear. That is not the intention. Um, a lot of people had questions about Ri'Shard and what his charges were and what happened and whatever. And I think what we just saw is a defense attorney at work. I mean, honestly, this is the way the system is built. It's the
Mhm.
way that it works. We have prosecutors on one side and we have defense attorneys on the other fighting for each side, fighting for victims, fighting for defendants. And so this obviously is the result of this case, but I don't think anybody is being insensitive or not recognizing the magnitude of this loss for Miss Hernandez, Sabrina, who is the mother of the children and the daughter of the grandmother, or even the grandfather,
Mhm.
Angel actually is his name. The man who made it out, his name is Angel. Their loss and the way that they talked on that stand was, I think somebody in the comments said, palpable. You could feel it. I watched that woman talk. I watched that video 5 times, 10 times probably at this point, and have cried every single time. I can't even imagine. And she didn't even cry on that stand. She was, like, angry. And so again, I can't even emphasize enough. And so if you feel like, "Okay, Mel, we got it," I want to make sure because I can already read the comments. That is not the point. But I am very grateful and appreciative of Mr. Darling coming on, and sharing that because it was a question so many people asked. And to the point I had to pin in my comments, for the people who are not going to watch this video to the end, the son was charged. Like I had to make a clip because that was the question that people were asking. Um, okay, we got some um objections about this case, and I want to play them.
Hey, I'm Corey, but let me get to the point. In that Richard Ferguson case, I feel like that case is completely messed up. Like, I understand there was a lot of tragedy in that case. A lot of people lost their life. A lot of kids lost their life in that case. But I also feel like no human being should ever have to spend 37 years in jail for something they didn't physically do. Like, at the end of the day, that man could have been a great father, a great guy. I'm pretty sure as a kid, everyone wanted their parents to let them drive down the street one point. So I feel like he shouldn't face 37 years because of that. Like, I feel like that's more so on the kid. Like, at the kid's age, I was smart enough to not make certain decisions. The kid at the end of the day, the kid is the person who caused the crash, not the father. And the father wasn't even in the car or anything. So I feel like he shouldn't have to do serious time, like most some probation, maybe some parenting class, but nothing too crazy.
Um, you know what is so interesting too? That case really came down to permission, right? The prosecutors were saying that he gave him permission.
Mhm.
Dad gave son permission. And I had the same question like, no, all them boys got on that stand and said he told them buckle up and be safe. So how are we saying he didn't have permission? When I got on the phone with Andrew and what he shared on this podcast was that statement was not always said by those boys.
Yep.
Those boys initially, that was not what was said. It wasn't until much later
After they talk to police?
After they talk to police, that is the statement that was said. So again, that's, for you to decide, viewer. But I think the sentiment of the call we just got is what a lot of people are saying, being held responsible. I mean, we have a 4-year-old who doesn't do half the stuff I tell her to do. But the difference is telling a child they can do something that is all I think the what I struggle with transparently is whether Ri'Shard got into an accident or not, allowing him to drive unlicensed with 3 other unlicensed children in the car is reckless.
Yes.
Had he made it home safely that day,
Mhm.
it was still reckless if he allowed him to drive.
Yes.
I don't know, because we've had both sides. So I don't know if he allowed him to or not. Obviously, we heard the son has said, no, he didn't allow me to. And the dad has said, no, he didn't. If he did, accident or not, that's a reckless decision.
Yes.
And something arguably you could argue one day was not going to end well. You keep playing with fire. It's not So anyway, let me play the next one.
Hey, this is Corey. I'm out of Florida, and I had an objection about the case with Mr. Ferguson. I'm in agreements with the parents being held accountable. I just think it's kind of crazy that the dad got more time than what the son got, who actually killed the people. I think that's a little unfair. The second point I wanted to make is I think he should have negotiated that 5-year plea deal that they offered him to try and get it on probation or house arrest, being that he had mitigating circumstances in the case and a health issue. So those are my 2 objections.
We getting all the men had things to say about this case. I appreciate y'all
Because
calling.
I'm telling you, we had our dads allowed us to drive out there, and we weren't. Fathers are not doing this with the intentions of their child doing something crazy,
Mhm.
because they dads let them do it. And back to what the lawyer was saying, what's his name?
Andrew,
Darling. Out in the country, white boys, they doing this every day. And the judge probably would have been like, would have connected with them and like, man, that dad didn't want this to happen. Just they wouldn't have sentenced the dad at all.
Yeah. Let me play the next one. I don't know if it's another man or not.
Hi, I'm calling about the Richard Ferguson case. 5 years to 37 years for a crime that your son committed, and he only gets 2 years. I think that the son's sentence should be increased. And I can see, if he did give his son the keys, I can see him getting some time for that.
Yes.
But he was told, according to witnesses, go there and come right back. According to Robert Ferguson, go and get your move the car. I can see having a teenager move the car. I'm guilty of that. I ask my teenager to move the car all the time. But for them to take the car, that's something different. Now, the man has prostate cancer, stage 4. It's going to cost them more to take care of him than what they're expecting. All he would have to do is, when he gets into the jail cell, is always need medical attention. Spend his time in the hospital. I know this strategy from people that I know, and they will end up spending more money housing him than it's worth. So let that man do 5 years probation. Thanks.
Thank you for dialing in. I appreciate that one. We got another one. Let me play this one.
Hey guys, hey Mel. I wanted to talk about the Trinidad Hernandez case. I feel like the sentencing was definitely fair because 4 lives were lost. It's like you can't get that time back. You can't get those people back. I'm a parent. I have 3 boys. I legitimately have a fear of them stepping out into the world and causing problems. I also, at the same time, have done my best, even though circumstances aren't easy. I've done my best to raise them as best I can, to instill values in them that I would be proud of if they were to step outside without me. And at the end of the day, as a parent, your children are always going to be a representation of you. They're going to be an example of you. They're going to take your example and they're going to represent you when they go outside into the world. And I could say all of these things about statistics and, the way the world is that causes kids to be crazy, because those influences are there. But at the end of the day, there's also so many kids and adults who were raised in difficult circumstances that still figured out how to make good decisions. And I feel strongly that that is a representation of your parenting. So for him to act very nonchalant, not really nonchalant, but kind of avoiding accountability on the stand, that's just not cool.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you calling and leaving an objection. The other kind of interesting note from Andrew Darling is that he said the family wasn't aware of this 5-year plea. That is shocking.
That is crazy.
That is shocking. Um, yeah, that is shocking. Being aware of the 10-year, up to 10-year, is crazy already though, because like, man, an open plea, being able to have this open plea, you're leaving it in the hands of the judge, very similar to kind of what different, but similar to what Thug did, right? Where he plead and it was like left up to the judge. I don't think there was a max on it, but knowing that they offered 5 years and if he himself had never heard that is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah. I honestly feel that the dad should be held responsible in some sense.
Mhm.
And I think 5 years in jail. I think the son, even though he's 15, he should get 10. 4 people
Lost their lives.
lost their lives.
Yeah.
And if they said 20, I would not even.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, boy, you did good. That's how I feel
Yeah.
about the situation. If the father gave him those keys, knowing he was not licensed, his punishment should be his punishment. If he did not know his son was taking the car, then I think the 5 years is where he should get. Well, actually, if he didn't know he was taking the car, I don't think he should get anything if he didn't know at all. But giving him permission, we see now, parents, the risk you run
Mhm.
doing this type of situation.
Yeah.
I hope it never happens, but to what Andrew was talking about, these electric bikes, they are as fast as vehicles.
Yeah, they are.
And I don't even know why they treat them as if they're not.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen with the child with these bikes. And then what? And I'm saying I want to see what would happen. I hope it doesn't happen, but are the parents going to be held responsible when one of these e-bikes cause an accident,
Yeah.
and they allow them on public streets, like they popping wheelies, they like dirt bikes.
Yeah, they are.
So
We have one, and it's about Colin and Colt Gray. And again, this is the school shooter, the father of a school shooter in Georgia who's on trial right now for what his son did. So I want to play this one because I think it's related to what we're talking about.
Hey, Mel and Greg, I'm a news anchor in Georgia, and I absolutely love your podcast. And Mel, I love I'm Not a Lawyer But on TikTok because it's a perfect synopsis for stories that I actually read each morning. I have an objection, and it's not even an objection. I actually agree with the sentence of the 69-year-old father who was just charged in Florida. And I agree with it because we're seeing this here in Georgia with Colt Gray and Colin Gray. Colin is facing up to 180 years in prison for giving his son that gun in the Appalachia High School shooting. And I feel that more parents do need to be held responsible for that. As that mother said, that's 4 lives lost. 3 of her children are gone. I mean, the impact that has, and with his health issues, he should have taken that into consideration and taken the plea deal from the beginning. I understand weighing his options in court, but I think it would have just been much, much, much smarter to just take that plea deal and do what he needed to do, because unfortunately, it's a possibility he will pass in jail.
She had such a news anchor voice.
Oh, when she
I
first,
loved
yes.
it. Thank you
I
for
need to
dialing
work on
in.
mine. I need to.
Such
That
a great
was
news anchor voice.
yes.
Yeah, come on, news anchors watching us. Appreciate your objection.
I've been this close to shedding tears
About this case?
about that lady losing her children.
Man,
And it's like,
I have cried for this woman
man.
repeatedly.
And I agree to staying with this young lady.
Yeah.
Yes, the dad, if he gave his son them keys, you deserve what you got. And I think they should increase the son's sentence. That's
The attorney, Mr. Darling, also said, I understand if you're mad at the sentence for the son. You be mad at me for doing a good job. That was, I think.
But in that case, what he did for the young man is what we have been needing for years, though.
Yeah, that's why
as young black men, they have not been tried as juveniles. They always kick our stuff up to be tried as an adult, and you get 30 years, 40 years on stuff. So, I mean, I commend him for what he did. He did the right thing.
He did his job. All right, we've been here for a long time. I have more objections, but they are regarding the Edric Faust case. Maybe I'll just kind of have them at the end. Maybe we'll just add them. But thank you for being here. Thank you again to Mr. Andrew Darling for joining us, shedding light on the perspective of the son, Ri'Shard, who again was fully remorseful, who took responsibility for his actions, who expressed remorse. Also, Mr. Darling did. And so again, I'm ending because I just want to say, I'm saying it again. We, as Greg was just saying, almost in tears. This is not intended to be insensitive or to be dismissive to the family, the Hernandez family. That is just not the point. My heart goes out to that family. I cannot even imagine I cannot even imagine. So my heart goes out to them. Condolences to them. And I think that's all.
It is. And I think this case should be a lesson to us all.
I agreed.
Tell your children, no, you're not doing anything without me.
Wait.
My supervision.
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're going to be held responsible. And cars, guns, vehicles, whatever, something that could really do harm to somebody, supervise your kids. Don't slip up.
And to the kids, it's important that they know that their actions, that's where I thought you were going, their actions don't just affect them. Children are selfish naturally. That's what happens. That's the way their brain works. They think about themselves and they think very short term. But the lesson is that your actions, 15-year-old, don't just affect you. They affect other people that you aren't even considering. And that's why it's important to make smarter decisions. All right. Until next time. Appreciate y'all. I'm Not a Lawyer But on all platforms. ImNotALawyerBut.com, Patreon.com/ImNotALawyerBut, all the things. Follow, subscribe, send, all the things. Thank you again to Mr. Darling for joining us.
GOOLZBY on Instagram. Court is adjourned.